It's okay. Okay, Allie, first off, thanks for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. Let me come in and observe you and try and help you out and see that things are going well in your classes. Um, Now, what hours are you wanting me to come in and observe you?
Second and third.
Second and third. Okay. What are those classes?
Second is sixth grade English, and third is sixth and seventh grade English.
Okay. All right. What's the makeup of those classes like in your second hour? 'Cause I know you got a couple different grade levels with having the BD room. You got a couple different grade levels. Who's in their second hour and then who's in their third hour?
Okay, second hour I have Logan and Brooke, because they're both sixth graders. And then third hour I have Howard, Nehemiah, Emma, George, Matthew, Brooke, and Logan.
So third hour bumps up quite a bit.
Bumps up 5 kids.
So 7 altogether,
Yeah.
and in third hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. What are they doing in those 2 hours? What when I come in tomorrow, what am I going to see in those 2 hours?
Well, we will be doing a daily writing worksheet. It's like a starter kind of thing. And then we will be reading chapter 8 out of our book called A Wrinkle in Time.
Very nice.
And we will be answering comprehension questions.
Okay.
And taking a vocab quiz from the day before when we went over vocab with the kids.
Okay, you got a full day plan.
And they will be brushing their teeth and putting on deodorant at the beginning of third hour.
Okay, and that's something you've recently started, right?
Yeah, and the kids are getting used to it, but they're not totally used to it because the kids that don't smell don't want to do it.
Okay, that's completely understandable. I think it's a good situation though that you've got them in, and I think they're, like I said, I think they're getting a little bit better at it. You're right, but kind of an awkward thing, right? Being a middle schooler and that. Okay, so you got a full day plan. So you got a starter, you got some independent reading, we got some comprehension questions, and then we got a little quiz at the end. Okay, what are you expecting of the students while they're working?
I would expect the students to be paying attention while we're reading the book. We're actually going to read it off an audio tape.
Okay.
So that me and the para can go around the room and observe that all the kids are reading at the time.
Great.
And then we do the questions together as a class. So just they raise their hands, they answer a question for me, and then the vocab test I would expect them to focus on that.
Okay, fantastic. What do you want me to look out for? I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say, so.
I want you to look for behaviors and on task.
Sure. And that's, like I said, I think that's pretty critical, and we've talked about that obviously before with the BD room. It's so critical that they're engaged and they're staying on task, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. So what I'll probably use is I have sort of a behavior checklist, and I'll have all the kids' names on it, and I'll just kind of chart times when I feel like they're engaged, times when I feel like they are being attentive to what's happening in class, participating, not participating, those type of things, and hopefully be able to give you something out of it. After I'm finished observing you, you'll be able to see possibly what are some things that I can do to engage them. But I'm excited. I want to come in there and spend a little bit of time in there because I can hear you from the wall in my classroom. So I'm excited to get in there and see you teach. So is there anything else you need to know before I come in?
No.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I will plan on seeing you tomorrow then.
All right.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, Miss Steck, let's talk about the lesson today. How do you think things went for the most part?
I think things went pretty good. kids seem pretty focused. The ones that were off task are usually off task. And there's a lot of my assistants and my pair's assistants to keep them on task.
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, how do you feel like overall? I mean, did you get everything accomplished that you wanted to get accomplished?
I did, but I did it in a little different order today. We usually brush our teeth before class starts.
The cleanliness.
And I think that brushing it in the middle actually worked better because it gave them a time to stretch and everything. So I actually kind of liked that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today.
Oh, I think seeing that, and I knew that was coming, because we talked about that in the pre-conference, that you were going to have a cleanliness break where the kids would go and put their deodorant on and put on, go brush their teeth and that. And I think that was a great transition point, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
where you broke down, because there was a chunk where they were listening to the audio recording, of the book that you guys were reading, and for the most part, I feel like most of them were probably engaged and were attentive to that. But then towards the end, you could tell they were kind of starting to
Squirm.
yeah, exactly, starting to squirm a little bit. And I feel like that transition was really, really nice. Had two of them that didn't necessarily want to do that, but I mean, is that a normal struggle with those two boys?
Yeah, because they're clean.
Okay.
They brush their teeth and put on deodorant at home,
So they're taking care of that at home.
yeah. But the other kids, most of them don't.
Okay. Right. So you kind of got into, I mean, not really got into it, but you sort of had a little disagreement with them because you want them to go and you want them to be a part of that and do it with the whole group. My question would be, is it worth it, to get in that, to get in that argument with them, if they are doing those things at home. But I'm sure that you want them to be included in that full group, you know what I mean, that full group aspect of things. But and we mentioned, and I talked to you a little bit about this right afterwards, is maybe figuring out a way to have them maybe do it a couple times, maybe not every day, but maybe you have them start with 2 or 3 days that they do it, and this is kind of the agenda. We're going to do it. You pick your 2 days if you want, or however you want to do it, but you pick those 2 days, and you guys do it whenever day you want to do it, but you have to do it 2 days throughout the week, because are there days where they are ready to do it as opposed to not ready to do it? Like today, they seem pretty like, no, I don't want to do it today type of thing.
Yeah, there are days that they're ready to do it, and they're just like over it, and they're like, let's just get this over with.
Right. Okay. So that may be something that you can unlock a little bit, is they don't maybe need to do it every day, but to keep them included with that whole group, and to not have any breaks in that, and have them, because having been around those two guys, they want to hang stuff over people's head, like you have to do this, but I don't have to do this type of thing, and so maybe that would help to prevent that type of thing, because I'm sure that you probably experienced that. So you went through the whole audio, and then do you normally do those things all together? You do the questions and all that together?
Yeah, and then we'll throw in vocab sometimes with that too. So
okay.
It just kind of depends.
Right. You said there was an opinion question at the end. Do you guys ever do that? Do you ever do those, or?
Very rarely, because they can't focus long enough to formulate ideas to write them down by themselves. We do more opinion stuff on the extra credit on the vocab stuff, to where it's their own opinion. But otherwise, it's pretty much factual, because they can't focus long enough to formulate answers.
Okay. So that's something that you've kind of figured out as you've been going through, is that it becomes maybe more of a distraction.
Yes.
Okay.
They get frustrated and they start their behaviors.
Because there's no concrete,
Yes,
there's no dead
there's
set
no-
concrete
yes.
answer. Right. And that may be something that you do maybe as a group. I know that some of that group stuff is tough and especially with this group because you want to try and minimize your behaviors and those type of things. So that I know that's kind of tough, but that may be something that you do as a group and maybe formulate.
Yeah.
You guys all formulate it together. So that could be something that you do. So I showed you, and I got it pulled up here on my iPad, but I kind of showed you the data that I kept as far as because we talked about behavior, being on task, being attentive to what's being asked of them, and so for basically what I did for each of them is each of their names, and then basically I did something called 5-second monitoring. And there's a key that goes with it. And you've looked at this previous to this meeting, so you're pretty familiar with it. But, on task, stalling or, confused, those type of things. Distracted, so either listening or talking, looking at others, listening or looking at others, not really paying attention to what's going on. Up and out of the seats, unnecessarily. Had a couple that got up that needed things throughout the room, which wasn't a big deal, but nobody really got up out of their seat for no reason. And then talking, engaged in conversation other than what you've asked of them. And so, after looking at that, is that kind of what you thought was happening throughout the class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it was.
And you mentioned to me that the two girls, the Emma and Brooke and Logan, they like to read.
Yeah, they like to read, and they like to read when we read in class.
Okay, and you can tell that too because if you look, they're on task almost the majority of the time of the 8 or 9 times that we have there that we viewed them. They were pretty much on task. Very very little distraction. So you looked at but you got a couple others here. So like Howard, he was pretty distracted. What is that? Is that his normal demeanor?
Yeah, because Howard thinks that he would be better suited in a regular class.
Okay.
Like a regular education class, and sometimes he just doesn't focus just because of that. Tough to keep him on task.
For sure. What are some of the things you try with him specifically?
We've tried just sitting by him while we're doing stuff. That tends to work. We've tried
moving him around the room,
letting him choose his spot in the room.
All with some limited success.
Yeah. It's just
I think he and Nehemiah are kind of the catalysts for the whole class, like how it's going to go. That's just what I got out of it, just from that one time sitting in there and watching him, but also just knowing them. They seem like kind of the hinge. Like if it's going to be a good day, it's going to be because those two are in a good situation, or if it's not, vice versa. You know what I mean? The other way around. Is that? Would you say that that's probably true?
Howard's the ringleader of the class.
Right.
If he hasn't gotten enough sleep or something, the whole class goes wacko.
Right.
And I think that's one of the main things is that he doesn't get enough sleep because Dad stays up and plays video games with him all night.
Interesting. That's great. That's great. So to me that shows how important maintaining him is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you guys spend quite a bit of time maintaining him.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago we let him eat up in the room his lunch with me and Miss Titten and Miss Audra, and he really liked that. I don't know.
Yeah, he's and I think it's going to be sort of a constant thing with him. You're going to have to find new ways to do it. So that I think that probably would be the route that I would go after looking at all of them together. You know, especially with the room that you have with the BD room, you're going to have different days, you know, where certain students are having a rougher time than others. But I think if you're able to keep Howard in check, that will keep Nehemiah in check, which then also keeps the rest of the class in check. And so, a couple things I might try in order to, keep Howard in. You know, if he needs a different spot moving around the room, you know, you can always give it. I mean, if he's sort of a fidget guy, if he needs something in his hands, if he does feel like he needs a better placement, or he feels like he's, one of those students that feels like he's in the wrong placement, although he's probably not. I think he's probably in the right placement. You could challenge him. You challenge him in a host of different ways. Have him work with certain students who maybe are struggling. If he is getting it and he is doing what he's supposed to do, I would focus some of my attention directly to him, because, like I said, I think he's kind of he's the catalyst of the whole group. And if he's having a good day, I think most other people are going to follow that. Obviously, there's going to be some times when that doesn't happen, but I think that's probably the majority of what I would look to do. One thing I will say is that I loved your compliments that you were handing out to the kids, because as they finished, they took, they had to write some questions down that you did as a group, and they wrote them down, and then you complimented each student. Nice job on your writing. I really like what you had to say there. This looks good. If you felt like maybe they needed to improve something. But as I was saying, I like the way that you complimented all the students. I think that was awesome. And these kids especially need that. Those kids that are having that, because they probably don't hear that a whole lot at home. So I think that was a really bright spot. Overall, I think it went great. I think they were much more engaged than when you and I have talked previously. You said they seemed more engaged today, and I don't know if it's just the day, or if, I feel like the lesson had a lot to do with it. I think you took breaks at the right time. Your transitions looked good. The things that I would definitely try are to spend some time figuring out some strategies for Howard and Nehemiah. Keep those two in check. If you keep those two in check, it'll keep everybody else in check. And just continuing to find new strategies, to reach those kids, and all of them for that matter. I'm not saying spend all of your time with those two guys, but I would dedicate some time to them, because if you have some kids who like to read, like you said, you got 3 or 4 out of 7 that like to read, then they're going to be engaged in whatever you're doing in English. Keeping track of those who maybe are not, or don't feel like they're in the right spot, they're going to be kind of the linchpin to maybe the kids that are kind of on the edge. So, but overall, I think it went great. So you did a good job. Is there anything else that you need from me? Anything from the data? Any of that?
Nope.
Okay. Fantastic. Like I said, I think you did an awesome job again, and I think you got the lesson planning thing figured out, and I think you're in a good spot for sure. So, but yeah. So if there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Good deal. All right, Mr. Zanata, thanks so much for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. Letting me come in and observe you. Now, first off, what do you teach? What do you teach? What grade level do you teach?
8th grade American history.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, what hour am I coming in to observe you in?
How about second hour? second hour work for you?
Sure. On Monday, can we plan on Monday? Does that sound good? I think we kind of talked about how that would work and where you're going to be at. But where are you? What lesson am I going to be seeing? Like what's your objective for that day, that Monday?
Well, we've actually got, it's going to be a review. So we got an in-class kind of a written review. So the objective is actually kind of jokingly what I'll write on the board is students will know literally everything about the American Revolution. So it's kind of a little bit all over. We've also got some students that might be catching up on some days they were absent.
Okay.
So it's really going to be kind of all over the place.
Fantastic. So from basically the beginning of the Revolutionary War until the end, essentially? Is that kind of where we're covering
the
out?
war, and also including Declaration of Independence, Thomas Paine, Common Sense, that kind of stuff that was going on during the war.
Fantastic.
It's a lot of the war part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, good deal. And then when will their test be for that particular?
And then the test will be the following day.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. All right, what is? Give me kind of the rundown because I'm not familiar with that class, but what is sort of the makeup of that second hour? Boys, girls, sped, non-sped, any other kind of?
Pretty even boys, girls. This is a pretty wide range of students here. We've got some that really need extra support in the classroom, and we've got some that do very well on their own, above and beyond the expectation, and really honestly, I've got some kids in that class that will move towards enrichment on their own without even me having to provide that for them. They're always kind of digging for more. So it's very wide range in that class. Okay,
very good. What is sort of the expectations? What is sort of the expectations of the students for that particular lesson? What are they going to be asked to be doing during that hour?
There's going to be a written review at that point. Some students, like I said, have missed some days, so they're going to need to be maybe doing some catch-up stuff. There's going to be, like I said, some of those ones that need more support, take a little more time with things. They're going to be a little bit step behind. There's going to be some that are going to finish that written review real quick, and are going to be looking for some other stuff to do. I do play a History Channel documentary in the background, so they can that's a little bit more, goes into a little more depth on some of those things. Just another, they can see it, they can watch the video, kind of hear it in the background as they're working. But really, the expectation is to finish that written review using the previous classwork that they've done.
Okay. And that's doable for all of them, no matter what their ability level is.
It is doable. There will be some modifications made for some of the kids, and that's really just going to be kind of length of written assignment. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, what do you want me to look for when I'm in here on Monday for that kind of that review session? Can kind of look for whatever you want, use my expertise as best I can to try and help you improve, or help improve what's happening in the classroom. What are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of it, I guess, is what I'm asking. So
yeah, what I really want you to be looking for is a way to make sure that, or even just a way to help me out getting, like I said, this is a really wide range of kids, and the expectation level is a little bit different with a lot of them. How can I make sure I'm putting a lesson together like this where I'm getting every kid all day, and I'm not leaving kids behind, and I'm also not making some kids just sit there twiddling their thumbs while they're waiting on me or waiting on other folks. And that's why this class will be really good for that, because it's so wide range, and I always kind of fear that whenever I have the real wide range like that. I hate having some kids they
feel like you're leaving a group out or neglecting a group to help to make sure another group is successful. You're maybe neglecting a different group. So yeah, I completely understand that, and I think you're right with the wide range of kids that you do have in that class. You've got some kids that have some some somewhat severe disabilities and have some limitations for sure. But I will be sure to kind of watch that and just see and just see if there's anything that maybe that I can research. Just in the stuff that I've done as far as like modifying and making making sort of different changes to help them be successful. But what I'll probably do is I'll probably just take notes of the whole time while I'm in here. Like I said, I feel pretty confident in your abilities, and having been around you for a couple years. But I'll probably just take some notes and maybe just kind of jot down some things that I'm feeling and thinking about as I kind of observe, and maybe then we'll just get together. After that, and we'll just kind of discuss and hash out some stuff, and maybe give you a couple new ideas to go along with what you already have planned. So it sounds good, though. So
That'd be awesome. I'd love to hear your expertise on some of these things. I know you're pretty good at reaching different levels of kids.
Right on. Is there anything else I need to know or you want me to know before I come in on Monday?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, if anything comes up, don't hesitate to let me know. But we'll just plan on Monday, and we'll just see how it goes. So,
Absolutely.
All righty. Perfect. You are the man. I appreciate it. Do you want to say hi? Woo! Fantastic. Okay, Mr. Zanata. All right.
Looking off.
So we're back. So I came in and reviewed, or came in and viewed the second hour class as they were doing their quest review. Just give me an overall. How do you think everything went? With the day, with the lesson.
Well, for that class, I thought we did pretty well. Had a lot of kids in some pretty good spots that were keeping up all unit long. So once they're doing that and they got all the work there in front of them, it's pretty easy to get that review done. Sure. So for the most part, I felt pretty good about that class. Anytime I can get around to all the kids and be talking to them and chat with them and see where they're at with the unit, I always feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about your objective being to know literally everything about
Accomplished.
Accomplished. I feel like for sure. When you develop that, I mean, when you talk me through how you develop your review and such, like for your quizzes and your tests. How do you kind of go about doing that?
Well, I mean, they're going to be based real well off the assessment. So basically, looking at the history standards are pretty simple across the board. So I have a lot of flexibility as far as the historical content on the timeline. But anyway, so I can look at that. I'm using the objectives there, what they are for the unit. Obviously, making the assessment off of that, and then I'm making the review a really nice looking mirror of that assessment, so that way we're not throwing any tricks at them come test time, and the work in the unit is all that too. So we're hitting over those key things
For sure.
Multiple times.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I like how you kind of gave some overarching directions for the review before you started, and put the review out on the Google Classroom, so they're able to see it. I think I don't think it was too much. I think it was probably right on. I mean, it's 7 questions, that can be answered with 3 to 5 sentences. Maybe some maybe a little bit more lengthy than that, but a very doable review, very very well done. And I think you did a good job of pointing out where you could find such answers. Obviously we hope that they can recall all that information, but I think realistically, as long as they have it somewhere, they know where they can go get it. I think you brought up looking in their notes, looking back in the book, looking at some of the things in their Notability app. I think those are all really, really positive things, because they just reinforce like, hey, remember we we put it down somewhere. It's somewhere. You just gotta go find it. So the kids seem to work really, I mean, intently. I mean, is that pretty much a trend? Do you feel like in whenever you give your reviews or any sort of independent work? I mean, with that group, do they just kind of jump in and go for it, or was today just a special day, or?
No, I think that's pretty. I've never really thought about it, but I guess since you mentioned it, and maybe that's just kind of their base and their kind of reflecting my mood there. Once we're pretty wild in American history class if you're familiar.
Yeah.
But once it comes down, once we get we're getting towards assessment, we're getting a little more serious with it. The kids do kind of buckle down and get all right. We gotta. This is it's the hardest part of the unit every time it comes around, that review. And then, the written tests and stuff. So they're figuring the system out. They're getting buckled down to it.
For sure. And I like the way you use Miss Gormley as well, because you do have an interesting selection of children in there, because you got some kids who are in our functional room, and I think that's a real positive that you are able to incorporate those students into what you're doing. What does kind of their workload look like versus, let's say, one of your average to above average students? What is that kind of workload? Modifications. What does that sort of thing look like for those guys?
So we're going to cut down. We're going to cut down those lengthier written responses quite a bit, like you talked about, those being 3 to 5 sentences. Well, a kid that struggles just plain to write. We're going to have the option there to, just speak, give the oral response, or write a much shorter sentence on that. That's really getting what's the real meat of the deal here. So narrow down, focus on that, in a shorter response.
And she took the students out of the room to do that, just minimize distraction, I guess, and just kind of rein them in a little bit. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely rein them in, and then kind of like you said, everybody was working pretty intently. It was pretty quiet in the room. That kind of helps keep the noise level down for
sure
for other folks.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I really enjoyed watching you teach, and because it seemed like you were moving around to all the students and answering questions, but not really, not giving them the answer by any means, but definitely saying, look, this is a possibility of where you could find this. And so kind of leading them to that realization for themselves. I think that's critically important. We talked about in the pre-conference about just, strategies and some ways to reach, a lot of different students. And I think you're really good at being able to do that. I think you realize that with this particular group of students, you have students that, are going to be above and beyond. And, I think you're able to challenge them in a positive way. And even at the same time, you've got maybe some of the lower IQs, lower ability levels in our entire school involved in that same classroom, and they are still getting something out of it, and they're still learning, some 8th grade American history concepts. And I think that speaks volumes to kind of what you're able to do with our kids. So, is there anything that you think that maybe you would want to do differently or add to, or, even for your higher kids? Not necessarily just for your lower kids. I know we focus a lot on them, but is there anything that you think that could help any of them possibly?
Yeah, I guess that was kind of the thing, is what can we add in there that's not going to be overwhelming to the kids that we're talking about that are struggling to write a sentence or two. But that, because we've got the baseline there, so this is where it should be, 3 to 5 sentences. Well, if a kid can easily write a paragraph, is that the standard now? You have to write a paragraph, or is there something more we can do? Okay, you did your 7 questions review. Now you got, you still got 10 minutes left in class. what can we do here? Is there some sort of, is it a pre-made work at this on your own, pre-made online sort of thing for them to still be getting more, and either in the same, this was fun, in the same area, go deeper in the same area, or can we go a little fun? They love talking about like 20th century because they never get that yet. They don't get that till high school.
Right.
So they always, every time you say, it could be everybody's asleep and you say World War II and they're all like, what? Right. So, is there something more in that direction?
Right. So maybe even creating some enrichments for those kids, because it sounds like you kind of, I think with Miss Gormley in there, I think you have a great base of someone who, who's got some knowledge, especially with working with, lower ability levels and is able to get a lot out of those kids. So maybe, creating those enrichments for those, whatever that can look like. I know they've done some book studies and things before, and, just do some, looking through the resources that you have in your classroom, because you do have quite a bit of resources, things that we don't get to get into. We mainly stick, you mainly stick to, your book but you do it in a way that's, you do it in a way that makes it your own and kind of follows the specific plan that you have. So is there things within the book that could be used as a resource for those type of enrichments, or is it, you kind of have it tapped out?
Well, I offered, here's the thing, so when we ended up taking that test, I offered kids, when they got done, since we were in the revolution there, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is Constitution, so I said, hey, if you get done early, you want to get a jump start in the next unit, page 221 is to start reading the Constitution, and none of them wanted to do that.
I don't understand why. Yeah, that could.
But no, there are some good things. This book has a couple of fun little things. Another thing, and I don't know if this is good or bad or what. There's some fun sort of geography type games that are online. One I had them on a couple of the hours. The kids were. I had them on the GeoGuessr game where it just drops you in the middle, and you're on the Google map and you're trying to figure out where you are based on the surroundings. So a lot of times the trees, the vegetation, live stuff like that can help give you an idea. And you're looking at a map the entire time you're doing that, so that can't be bad, right?
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think you kind of you've based on what we've already talked about, I think you've kind of figured out, how to include each of those groups, and I think you do it in a really nice way, and I think you've identified that, the enrichments, either for both sides, for your higher, your middle level kids, your low level kids, they want to reach, and I think you've identified that might be a path to go down to explore those enrichments and see if you can continue to challenge not only your higher achieving students, but all of them. So, all right. Well, I think, like I said, I think you did an awesome job. Is there anything else that that you're thinking about, or that you possibly need any assistance with?
Not that's coming to mind right now. That was kind of the focus right there. So appreciate the help there. That's what I was wanting to get at. Obviously, we'll be talking more when I got more questions about stuff.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I think you did a great job. You engaged all the students. They know the expectations of your classroom, and I think that speaks to who you are as an educator. So I appreciate everything you do for our 8th graders. So, okay, I think that's about it. So, I love you.
Do we hug?
You want to say hi again? Hi. Okay, that was great.